So I've been now testing this Royal Enfield Bear 650 for a month, and in that month I've done quite a lot with this motorbike. I went with it on a 1,000 kilometer off-road motorcycle trip through Sweden, rode with it around my city to work, and took it on the one or other weekend ride and rode with it to the Wheels and Waves Festival with my surfboard on the side. And here's how that went and what I think about the Royal Enfield Bear 650. Let's get the basics out of the way. The bike has the 648cc air and oil-cooled engine out of the Royal Enfield platform with 47 horsepower and 56 newton meters of torque at 5,600 RPM, which is a bit more torque along the mid-range because of a different mapping, slightly different gearing, and the new 2-in-1 exhaust that also saves a bit of weight. Well, the main part of the weight save is from the bike coming without a center stand and with the bike now coming in at 214 kilos. With this motorcycle being the scrambler variant of the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650, there also has been some upgrades to the suspension. We have an upside down Showa front fork, which is really nice, with 130 millimeters of suspension travel and 115 in the rear. And that combined with a 19-inch front wheel and a 17-inch wheel in the back. That now sounds for a scrambler pretty modest, but this bike is mainly a road-focused bike. How much of a scrambler is actually in it, we will get to in a second. On the road, the Bear 650 is an incredibly comfortable ride. Because of the increased suspension travel, it feels a lot more like a sports tourer from the 90s. But that's not a bad thing. That's because consumer preferences back then have been different and it a lot more caters to that. And in my opinion, it's a really good thing because I don't like the hard feeling that many modern bikes give. I can already hear you say, how can you compare a scrambler to old sports tourers? And let me tell you about that. A lot of the older sports tourers, because of their more comfort setup suspension, are actually half decent off-road capable. My old Yamaha Diversion even had up to 10mm more suspension travel than the new Bear 650. Even being a softer bike and making me remember the midweight sport tours of the 90s, the bike has a more modern feel to it than, for example, the Interceptor. All the old bike feel that is authentically fitting for a retro bike, however can cause back pain over longer rides and makes the bike feel slightly uncomfortable sometimes, is gone here and replaced with a proper modern feel. It feels like it has more power than it has, especially accelerating past 100 kilometers an hour because of the different gearing. Because of the different gearing, I don't know if it's only my top speed. I managed to get a top speed of 150 out of the bike, but that also takes in factors like, you know, how much wind resistance you have. So maybe someone else gets a different top speed. That's the top speed that I've gotten. The bike is really comfortable. It's also when I now swing a leg here over the bike. The seat is a massive improvement from the Interceptor seat. You can sit in it for a really long time. The bike has a raised handlebar. However, this only looks like a raised handlebar. Yes, technically it's a raised handlebar, but if you look at it from behind from the side, you see that the ends of it go down again. And that's something when you then actually properly sit on the bike, you feel that the riding position is more leaned forward and feels a bit more like on a cafe racer than a scrambler in particular. One thing I really appreciate about the Royal Enfield Bear 650, that with the bigger wheels, the higher suspension, it feels more like a proper big motorbike with a seat height of 83 centimeters. This is more bike for my liking, and I really enjoy that. That's for me always a plus. That all until now sounds pretty road biased, and I have to admit, the Bear 650 is predominantly a road bike. However, does it deserve the word scrambler? To answer that, my friend Niels invited me right after picking up this bike to go on an off-road motorcycle trip through Sweden to the overlanding expedition in Stockholm. And yeah, let me tell you, that was a challenge for this motorbike, because the other riders had adventure bikes and also had a lot more experience off-road and partially had a professional background in off-road riding. And then there was me with the Royal Enfield Bear 650, and I was expecting to be the absolute slouch of the group, hold everyone back, and potentially even have to take the road every once in a while. However, that was not the case.
Dude, you are nuts.
Yeah, the bear can do it though.
Oh, you can do it.
Yes.
There's going to be a full movie on that trip where you can see how the Bear 650 actually performs in the wild. However, this experience really clearly showed that the Royal Enfield Bear 650 is worthy of the scrambler name. Our pace was quite rapid. We were hitting speeds of 70 to 80 kilometers an hour, and it did that all fine off the beaten path, on single trails, in different terrain, loose gravel where the bike really sinks in and you're just fighting the bike, deep mud, and also really fine sand, partially uphill, like areas where the bike really easily gets stuck, where it's really tough to get through. This bike did it really fine. It did it really fine, and I was genuinely surprised. However, I still have to say the bike is really not made for it, and it also showed that that is the case, because I think a lot of people are also interested in the Himalayan 450, the other off-road focused motorbike from Royal Enfield, and that is like a precise tool. You follow the front wheel and it does what it's supposed to do, and it does that really well. This is the opposite. This is constantly losing control and kind of maintaining to not crash the bike, because like you're really often, the bike wants to tank slap on you and the handlebars just fly all over the place, and you're just correcting it with twisting the throttle and hoping for the best, and that managed it really well, and it's quite a lot of fun at that point. However, you're constantly bottoming out. The suspension doesn't want to be doing this, but at the end of the day, I don't want to be too critical on it, because I think a lot of people will be critical on the lack of suspension travel. However, it kept all the promises. It did everything it was supposed to do, and I was kind of holding back because this is a test bike. The bike could do even more, and there's like, if you want to go somewhere to like to Iceland and ride the Offroads, this bike will do it. Like, no worries whatsoever. And it is mainly a road bike, so you get to have fun with riding with other people on road bikes, with other naked bikes, and have a good time with this bike maybe as your commuter. And it's really a jack of all trades and a master of none. However, that's a good thing, and that's really nice about the bike. Like, for example, I explained to you the situation. I got asked to join some of my friends on a trip that is focused on enduro riding and adventure bike riding, and I only had this bike available, and I did it, and it was fine. So if you have friends that ask you, oh yeah, you want to go on this trip, you can just say yes with this bike, and you're an absolute menace while doing it, because everyone else is there with the tool for the job while you're basically just winging it. And that has its own appeal and some fun to it, definitely. This also really makes the bike great in day-to-day life, because you can ride some twisty roads, have a good time, and then when you see like a little BMX track on the side, you can just hit that BMX track and ride over it, and like speed bumps all of a sudden become little ramps for the bike. You are just having a good time, and I think that's what motorbike riding is about, and the Bear 650 really nicely finds a balance in between all these things, and that's really cool. The bike also does all these things in style, which I think is something that is really important to a lot of people. I am a big fan of this colorway in specific. The 249 colorway is just awesome. There is nothing bad to say about it. White mixed with the black and the turquoise is such a rare choice, and there are colors that kind of bite each other, and you wouldn't put this on a motorbike, but now seeing it, so great, so nice. And like the integration of this like number here on the side into the side cover is really nice, and basically the design color-wise is just phenomenal. I really, really like it. However, compared to the other bikes that are really comparable with this, the Continental and the Interceptor, this is a bit the odd one out. The blinkers kind of clash the rest of the design because some effort went into the blinkers. They have like these 2 rows of LEDs that glow. However, they don't fit the rest of the bike's design, and that makes it a bit weird next to the Interceptor and the Continental. The bike has a DFT dash. My personal preference is I prefer analog gauges. However, they did this like nice metal ring here around it, which then with the white background and with the way that the DFT dash resembles an analog gauge makes it fine, especially because there are so many information that you get from the DFT dash that you wouldn't get from an analog gauge. For example, now the kilometer counter for when the fuel light is on is not just a kilometer counter anymore on the last Royal Enfield that I tested. However, it's going backwards now, so you actually see how much real range you still have, so you're not guessing. That's really nice. It mirrors the map on your phone, so you have some nice Google Maps integration, but you cannot shut down the phone screen, so you will lose a bunch of battery. But all in all, I have to say that's a positive. I really like that. Another thing that's a bit rough around the edges, on the left side, the start of the exhaust manifold is out of a different color and has a different shine to it, and it looks really odd. Yeah, but all in all, really gorgeous bike. Speaking of the looks of the bike comes with so many great customization options because it's so close to the Interceptor and the Continental. From my Interceptor, have the suitcases here on, so that made it possible for me to instantly do the trip because with the stuff I already had. Same goes for this little tank belt. This was really easy to put on. Like, you have so many options just from the other bikes. Like, I put my surfboard here on the side of the bike and rode it like this to the Waves and Wheels Festival, so I managed to kind of give this bike my own function to ride it to go surfing. That was so cool, so nice. I love when stuff like that is possible. Sadly, the mount for that is not being produced anymore. I'm, however, right now starting to make my own mounts because the adaptation of the mount from Bach doesn't work that well. If you want one yourself, write me an email and I'll get back to you. I had quite a few people approach me on the Waves and Wheels Festival about the mount, wanting one for themselves, so I'm now making them by hand together with my uncle, and if you want one, I can put you on the list if you write me an email. The thing that's great about the Bear 650 is that it gives you so many options on how you're going to use it, and how much enjoyment you get out of this motorbike really depends on you. Like, I really enjoyed riding my bike to the beach and going surfing with it, then doing my work on my laptop, and then going for another spin with the bike. And also here in Germany, in Hanover, I did basically the same in my city, and that was so nice. And then still having the option to be like, oh, today I want to ride on-road, today I want to ride off-road. Like, all of these things are possible with the bike, and it really much depends on how much you get out of the bike to how you use it at the end of the day. There are a few little negative quirks that I have to mention. That, for example, the contact points when it comes to the foot pegs feel not quite right. There's right here this part that is where basically part of the brake is, and if you have, I think it's because I have big feet, your foot is crooked on the foot peg because this thing is in the way and pushing it out, so the tip of your toe is kind of like inverted. On the other side, you have the shift lever. You kind of get used to the shift lever, but at the beginning the shift lever feels a bit odd. It's sticking out super far to the side, so you're kind of with your feet in a really weird way when standing on the bike. Maybe that's only because I have big feet, but that was my something I noticed. The bike has a technical bug sometimes when you fill up the gas that the bike doesn't recognize it has new gas, so it just says empty like for a really long time, and you're switching on and off the bike repeatedly, and it doesn't go away. But then at some point it does, but then you have ridden through half the tank already. Another thing is, for this bike being a scrambler, I would have really went with a different handlebar, because with the handlebar pointing down at these ends, like I show you a picture here of me being with the motorcycle mid-slide. You see how far lean forward I am, how far my angle in the elbows is. That's not ideal. You really often feel like you're about to go over the handlebars, especially when you're standing up. And I think there are these like flat tracker holiday bars. They are like $120 for the Interceptor. Just get one of those. Like, I think that would tremendously transform the motorcycle. Because with the handlebars, it's also a bit, you cannot see the controls, you cannot see the horn, you cannot see the stick to move the menu, you cannot see the signs where actually your hazard lights are. Yeah, so that's small minor nitpicks. However, all in all, I really like the Royal Enfield Bear 650. It's really strongly based on the Interceptor, and in my opinion, the Interceptor has been one of the strongest bikes of the last 10 years, and there's basically more good stuff here. This is the Interceptor, but different, and that's really nice. So there's not a lot you can do wrong with going with this motorbike, also at the price point of this bike. And yeah, it looks really good. I like the colorway, really happy with it. And yeah, I hope you're looking forward to my big film about my off-road trip coming as well. And I hope you guys liked the video on the Bear 650. Leave your opinion on the bike in the comments, and see you guys in the next video.